Welcome back to another episode of the Sale and Scale Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Dimitri Smirnov, and I'm with my co-host, John Rabman here today.
Hello.
We're super excited to have an incredible guest join us today that's a true expert on the world of social media. Joining us today is Wendy Pace, the founder of Pace Settings Media. With an impressive 9 years of experience, Wendy has built a thriving agency that manages social media for around 30 different clients across a diverse range of industries. Known for her innovative approach for creating content and helping businesses enhance their online presence, Wendy's going to be sharing today with us her secrets to building an effective content library and the importance of personalized branded visuals. So get ready for some invaluable insights today, and looking forward to interviewing you today here, Wendy. So tell us a little bit more. Like, how did you get into social media? What made you open your own agency?
So, like many people who go into business, it's out of necessity, right? You have to make a paycheck. So,
Yep.
I had been in corporate marketing, and I found myself in a position where I had to work from home. And the position that I had in corporate marketing required me to travel quite extensively. And my son, who is my third grown up in the house, was leaving for college, and I have a child with special needs. And she needed me to be home, and being gallivanting all over the country, setting up conferences was not conducive to taking care of my kid. So, having cocktails with another friend who was in marketing, and she was like, "Oh, I want to outsource my social media." This was back in 2015 when, Facebook was really just starting to pick up, and people were going, "Oh, I could use this for business, not just for showing pictures of my cheesecake at lunch." And I told her to have another cocktail. I said, "Nobody does that. Give that to an intern. That's not something that you do." She's like, "No, put a proposal together. I want to do a more robust social media campaign." I was like, "Yeah, whatever. Have another martini." 30 days later, she calls me and she goes, "I need that proposal. I got to put my budget in." And I was like, "Oh, oh, oh, okay. You're like serious, like for realsies. Oh, can I have the weekend?" And she was like, "Yes, but I have to have it by Monday morning." I was like, "Done. I will get that to you." I came up with a name. I came up with a tagline. I built up a website, and I sent off the proposal, and I got, I got it. So having a conversation with my husband, I was like, "Okay, if there's one company looking for this, there's 5 companies looking for this. I just have to find them." And Pace Settings Media was born. Actually, this is my anniversary. It was born today, 9 years ago.
All right.
July 5th.
July 5th. Well, congrats.
Yes.
Happy,
Thank
what you
you.
said, 9 years?
9 years ago
Wow.
today was
9 year
when
anniversary. Well,
it
congrats.
got kicked
Wow.
off. Thank you.
Very
Wow.
nice. Very nice.
Amazing.
So,
So,
go ahead, Jordan.
no, so tell us a little bit about your background. You say you came from corporate marketing. Have you always been, you started your entire career in corporate marketing, or do you have any other background that you kind of first joined the business world in?
So initially, when I went to university, I went for speech pathology, but my undergrad was called human communication, Hunter College, New York City. And the degree was actually the study of how we communicate people, and understanding messaging and understanding the way we perceive content. But I'm going to give my age away here. But back then it wasn't called content, it was messaging, and how a message is received, and how are they conveyed, and where it gets lost in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a whole understanding. The whole degree was an understanding of how we as humans communicate and get our message across, which made no sense to me, but that was the degree. And so I ended up not going to grad school and just went into communications, which is what it was called at the time. It wasn't even called marketing; it was called communications. And
Right.
yeah, I'm that old. Okay. So anyway, I always had a desire to understand how humans receive information, and there's that whole understanding that every family has, coming from a family of quite dysfunctional communicators. It was something that I always wanted to understand, like, why can't she understand what I'm saying to her, and why can't he understand what he said to me hurt, and all that. So I was always fascinated by communication, and the way we have a blueprint in our family and each family has their own individual communication blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
that just fascinated me.
Right.
And that's where it all kind
Yeah.
of got started. And
Gotcha.
just from there, I went into marketing.
Well, it makes
From
sense.
communication, but it makes sense. Absolutely, exactly. And I'm sure you draw on a lot of those experiences, learning how to communicate, understanding communication. It all comes across in building your clients' portfolios and helping them
Content.
communicate their
Mm-hmm.
message.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what the way I go about it and the way I train my team is I want to make my clients the answer to the question anybody is typing into Google. When you understand the algorithm is constantly looking for that pertinent bit of information that is going to help whoever does the search in Google. Google is only as good as the responses it brings back to you.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a saying, go to a library, what was it? It was, you can put in a question into Google and you get a million responses, but you go to the library if you want to get the right response,
Mm-hmm.
because same deal. So Google had that problem from the beginning of its concept. And a lot of people don't know this, but Google had a booth at the American Library Association conference when they first started. And not one librarian would step foot into their booth. Like, they were blacklisted. They were ostracized when they first got started, because librarians were like, no, that's our job to give information. That's not your job to give information. So there was a bit of a moment there where Google had to like kind of get its street cred and be like, no, we really want to help people get the right answers, which, by the way, they've done a better job of, but you're still better off going to a librarian. And I'll say that because I'm married to a librarian, and I truly believe that libraries are going to save the country, because if you want the honest and true answer, you will find it in a library much faster than you will on Google, because you don't have to discern what is truth and what is not.
That's true.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is at the crux of their algorithm, is they want to know how many people are going to utilize that answer to answer the question that they were searching on. So when we're creating content for our clients, I always have at the crux of that, we need to make our client the answer to the question that somebody is going to put into Google to find them as their answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make them the answer to any question that somebody who is needing their services are going to search on.
So that kind of segues into like the next thing that we wanted to talk about, which was going to be content libraries, right? Because that's
Right.
content.
Right.
And you just mentioned libraries, but other than that, not everybody in the market, I guess clients, usually don't really understand what a content library truly is and what it means, right? So they're just saying, oh, it's just like a Google Drive or something where you throw your images, but it's so much more than just that, right? So could you give us a little bit more background on how you would define a content library, what you would say it is, and after that, we can talk a little bit about building up the library itself, and then how to personalize it and make it unique to your business.
Okay, so first of all, we need to understand that all the different social media platforms have different purposes. It's starting to get muddier now, but LinkedIn is where you are a thought leader and you show your expertise. Facebook is where you show your warm fuzzy. That's where people want to connect with you on some level. They're looking for a reason to like you, right? Or to have something in common with you. So that's where you might show, if you're in office that lets your employees bring your dogs to work, you're going to get higher views when you show the doggies in the office than just saying, yeah, we make widgets. They'll be like, so I saw that dog. That dog's really cute. Or that dog reminds me of the dog I had when I was a kid. Whatever it is, they're looking to make that connection, right? Because as connected as we are as a society, we are individually isolated for the most part. And so people are constantly looking for a way to feel connected to the companies and the businesses that they want to shop from. It's not just the fact that, oh, I like that blouse and I've seen it 17 times because the algorithm keeps putting it in my feed. They want to know that you support breast cancer and you walked in, the Komen race. And
Mm-hmm.
they want to see that you're putting your money where your mouth is. And that's what Facebook is about, right?
Yeah.
That's where the warm fuzz is. That's where you're showing your charity work. That's where you're showing your alma mater. That's what anything other than your cheesecake pictures. Please, people, stop with the lunch pictures. Don't do that. But they want to see that, you're a community, you have community involvement. You're good to your employees. You're, all of the things that they want or wish for in the companies that they're going to put their time and money into. They want to know that you have the same value system that they do.
I would say almost like personification, right? Like personifying the brand a little bit. Yeah.
Right. You're giving the brand a personality. And then LinkedIn is where you show your expertise in your field, right? This is when you talk about the actual understanding of what it is to be in your industry, why your company should be considered a leader, why your company should be considered cutting edge. What are you doing? And it's also an opportunity to say, to highlight your employees and how good they are, because you might put somebody up and you be like, this is, Rocco, and Rocco came to us 10 years ago and he's an immigrant from, so there's all those little stories, yes, give you some intimate look inside and voyeuristic moments, but it also gives them another opportunity to connect with your company on a different level.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then,
so when you start creating your video libraries or your content libraries, you have to think about where they're going to be utilized the best.
Okay, got it. And then so we talked about Facebook, we talked about LinkedIn. What about Instagram, TikTok? Let's go over the rest of them too. We might as well.
So Instagram and TikTok are. You ever saw the Hungry Hippo game? You just keep grabbing the marbles. That to me is what TikTok and Instagram is. It's like image, video, soundbite. Just feed the machine, feed the monster. And you run out of stuff if you don't consistently create content. So one of the things that Pace Setting Media does is we help you by saying, okay, we're going to put 3 hours aside this month and you're going to sit there and you're going to give us, these are the topics we're going to cover. This is where, the algorithm is saying that we need information on, and you're going to talk and talk and talk and talk. Or you're going to connect me with your clients and you're going to go, let me go get some reference videos, some referral videos, some testimonial videos, all of the things that I need to feed the monster that is TikTok and Instagram and give them the sound bites and the video clips that they're going to hunger for and they want consistently. Because you can't do one and done. Once you start the beast, you got to keep feeding the beast. It's like Audrey 2 and,
Exactly.
in Little Shops of Horror, feed me, Seymour, that you got to have that content ready to go.
That's funny.
Do you feel that when you're speaking to your clients, or shall I say, what is your approach when you're speaking to your clients when it comes to feeding that beast? Do you say to them, we need to create content for all these channels, or we need to be specific and choose and be strategic about the channels that match where your, shall we say, your clients will be? We got to know where your clients are.
Right. And that's exactly, you've got to, first and foremost, you've got to understand who is your audience? Who are you creating this for? Because, yes, it used to be TikTok was for the young, but boy, those Gen Xers are in there and they love them some TikTok. So I have a country music singer that I work with, and his demographic is the Gen X female. And he's like, Wendy, I'm 21. I was like, I understand you're 21, but the people who are watching your video and buying your stuff, she's 45 to 60. That's your sweet spot. And he was like, oh. I'm like, I understand it's not your ideal groupie, but she's the one who's showing up. And let me tell you, she's got some money to spend. So we're going to feed that machine. Right.
Right.
And they're on TikTok. They are there and they're, consuming his content. So you have to understand who your audience is as well, because you're going to find there's more boomers now on Facebook, and the older Gen Xers, and the older millennial is starting to come there because they're having families, they're buying homes. So you have to understand who's on what right? Instagram, I think, is still very, very, not very young, but it's still younger. And TikTok has gotten a little bit older than it used to be, like 11-year-olds to, 16. And now it's jumped to Gen X and older millennials. So you just have to understand that this is ever changing, and you have to be ready to pivot when it's important to hit a certain demographic.
What I think is interesting about what you just said about your specific client there, and we've experienced this in our own agency, but it's clients think they have this preconceived like notion of like, this is my audience,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, did you do the research? What do you mean? What research? Yeah, did you actually check out the true demographics of who is your ideal persona, like buyer persona, right? Who's your avatar? Oh, what's an avatar? Oh, okay. All right, we need to do a whole research now, like segment on figuring out who you actually should be targeting, and let's go back. And then oftentimes they come back and they're like super surprised, like, oh, I didn't even think about these people following me or wanting to digest my content or whatever it is or buy this product. So it's always interesting on that end of it, I think. And I think you hit that like right there on the top of the nail.
Right.
You hit it right on the head, and you're like, yeah, well, these people actually have money and can watch your content.
Well, it was funny because we took some of his songs and we made pictorial videos for them, right? Because you gotta keep feeding that beast. And as much as I like to put his face in front of everybody, I just don't have time to grab him, and be like, you need to do a TikTok right now. And so I'll put videos because he goes, Wendy, it's so 90s. I said, do you know who's watching? I was like, if you look at your demographic, that's exactly who is, the babies from the 90s and the 80s. Those are the women that, I hate to tell you this, they're all female. They're loving your stuff, okay? So let me do my job and you do you, okay, boo?
Yeah, let me feed the beast.
So tell us a little bit about your process when you're engaging with your clients. How do you should we say go about explaining to them that we got to do some research first, and we got to find out, because that's what it seems to be a conversation when you have that with clients. They're like, why? Just let's get out there and
let's just get started. No. Yeah.
We need to understand who you are. We need to understand what's going on. We're coming in as a marketing agency. You're coming to us because we have expertise in this, and we're explaining. We need to understand who you are now. You found us. You that's great.
Right.
So we did our job right. You found us. That's great. Our marketing works. So thank you very much for picking up the phone or emailing us. But now we need to research you so that we can build your persona, and we'll know who's looking for you, what your clients are. How do you go about that conversation with your clients?
Well, first and foremost, when they come to me, they usually come and they say, this is what I want to do. Can you do this? And I'm like, of course. And then we sit down and I'll say to them, so how did you come up with this idea? Like, is this something you saw somebody else do? Or this is what you think you should be doing? Why are we here? And they'll usually go through their process. Sometimes they'll go through their process. A lot of times they're like, I don't know, this is what I saw or I read or I took a course or, I did a seminar or whatever. And this is what they said to do. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I call that latching to buzzwords.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. And they're like, oh, we need to get our algorithm. I'm like, do you know what an algorithm is? Do you know how that works? No? Okay. But you thought it sounded good, but okay. So then we have that conversation. And then I was like, who do you think your client is? And they're like, it's this and it's this. Or they'll say, I have no idea. I just know that I didn't have to market before, and now my sales are down, and I really need to market. And I'm like, okay. Then we have to have the conversation of, are you coming from a place of abundance or a place of conservatism? Because if you're not ready to write the check, then you're not ready to have the conversation, and we really can't move forward. Once we can determine that they are indeed ready to truly market and put money behind their marketing, then we can sit down, because there's kind of two ways. I'm like, okay, we can start your social media and we can do it for this much, and I'll create content, and you tell me, I'll start sending them stuff and going, does this look like your messaging? Does this look like something that you would say? Is this how you want to be presented or perceived? And they'll be like, either, yeah, that's great, or no, and they'll get in the weeds and get, they'll get so much in the weeds that like, this needs a comma. I'm like, it's a graphic, it doesn't really need a comma. Okay. And I can determine what type of client they're going to be.
Yeah.
Are they going to be very involved and hands-on and get in my way? Or are they going to be like, no, here you go. You're the expert. I've hired you. And it just determines how I manage their expectations. Then once we get past that and they trust me to do what I need to do, then we can really actually have those true conversations, be like, okay, what is it you're looking to achieve? Let's sit down and make a plan as to how you used to do it or wanted to do it or think you should do it and how it actually should be done. And that's a conversation that happens sometimes over a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or a couple of months, because it takes people a while for them to understand actually how social media works. And one of the reasons my tagline is it's a marathon, not a sprint, is because a lot of times they think it's going to be instantaneous. They're going to put out an ad and they're going to get phone calls and it's going to pay back. The ROI is just going to be instantaneous. And that's not how this works. What I try to explain to them is like, there are things that need to be in place. Your website needs to be built in such a way that it converts once I get them there. I am basically leading that horse to water. The water is your website. Your website has to convert to sales. I can't help you with that unless I built the website. Then we can have a conversation. But if we get them there, I can tell you how many people I brought to the pond. How many horses did I get to that pond? How many horses actually drank? But I don't know how many sales unless I have the back end of that sales. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I can just tell you
the CRM
they clicked this many
invoicing.
times.
Yeah.
Right. I just couldn't tell you, this is how many people clicked the ad. This is how many people made the phone call. This is how many people it worked. You have to then tell me whether this is turning into sales for you.
So,
oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No,
that
it's
my
okay.
phone keeps.
So tell us in your unique social approach, right? Because we've talked to a lot of different agency owners that also do social, but everybody has a little bit different specialty, right? So some are more organic oriented, some are like, no, ads are the way to go all the time. You have to always have ads. Like what's your philosophy on like being able to assist a client in generating leads and getting more business using social media? Like what do you think? Is it more organic driven or ads driven?
I think you need a well-balanced combination.
Okay.
Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Your SEO has to be dialed in. Your website has to be dialed in. All of these things are working together when everything is put into place. For me, social media is the slow drip reminding people that you're there, right? Because it's coming up in the feed. If I'm doing my job right, it's coming up every 20 to 30 minutes in somebody's feed. Something of yours should be showing up if they're following you. And even if they're not, if I'm pushing an ad, whether it's a Facebook post that I'm pushing through or putting money behind, or a LinkedIn ad I'm putting money behind, it should be coming up in front of those people that we've determined together is your audience. That has to work in conjunction with your SEO, with your pay-per-click. And I mean, it is a monster machine, but it all has to work together. But I love when people go, well, I'm paying $700 a month for SEO. That should do it, right? No.
It's a piece of the whole puzzle.
Right. It's just one, it's the corner that gets the started on the line that determines the outline of the puzzle. And then you've got all the pieces that you have to fill in the middle. So some people understand that and some people don't.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, the world has moved into digital marketing, but the word digital comes before the word marketing. Marketing existed way before, and people spent, depending again on their budget, they spent a lot of money on marketing their business in the traditional manners, however it was be. If it was, then back then it was a lot of print media, signage, cold calls,
radio,
mail. radio, TV. Now everything's moved online, and again, the sources moved, but the marketing is there. It just went from, we'll call it analog marketing. Let's just put a break there, move it into the digital realm where everybody has access to it. But but the playing field is now leveled out where everybody has access to it. That's where I think the advantageous part of it is.
Well, and one of the things that a lot of them don't realize is it's allowing us to pinpoint more exact the audience. We're not throwing out a fishing net and just casting out there and hoping we catch something in our net. We can actually go, no, this person that lives at 2532 Jones Lane has shown interest in these 3 categories, which has indicated to us that they would be a good client for you. And they're like, how do you get that information? And bless their heart, I have some older clients that are like, well, that's an invasion of privacy. I'm like, I think you're sweet. I really do. But the minute you logged into Facebook, privacy went out the window. Facebook was free. And you paid for it with your data. And they're like, but I didn't give them permission. Yeah, you did. When you clicked the button and said, yeah, I want to set up an account. You sure
did. Read that fine print. That big, long scrolling thing that the user manual, we all jump over and just go, I agree. Well, it's in there.
Right. It was in there. And they're like, but no.
It got worse.
And everybody's like, my privacy. I'm like, I'm sorry, sweetheart. The minute you logged into LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, it was there. I'm sorry.
And what I think is funny is they don't understand that I guess that breach of privacy got worse as soon as they logged into those platforms on their phone.
Oh yeah.
Because now they know where you're at, when you're there, how often you're there, when you're pinging at Starbucks, when you're pinging in at this location. They know it all. They know everything. So they know what to advertise to you. They know what to show you. They know what you're interested in. Now you got Amazon Alexas. They're listening to you. Your Siri is listening to you.
And I explained to them, they're like, well, I went to the store and all of a sudden I'm getting ads. How do they know? I'm like, shut the mic off on your phone. Shut the locator off on your phone. And they're like, but I was like, no, every single app, you have to opt out. You don't get to opt in. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, that means you got to tell your phone to stop listening to you. That's what that means. But
yep.
Yeah. So back to videos.
but then on the flip side of it, as you said, this is because we have access to these. We'll call it soft privacy, because obviously there's certain privacy things we don't have access to, but the certain levels of information that we do have access allows us then to take that persona and copy it and say, right, we know that Mr. Smith, who lives at 22 Jones Street, likes your product, and we can now copy that and find all the Mr. Joneses on all the, in all the different places, and now bring them to to your drinking well.
Exactly. It's a two-sided coin. We're all like, oh, our privacy, but when that ad comes through that you're like, I've been looking for this, and there it is.
Yeah.
And it just made it easier for you to find it. Yeah. And they're like,
yeah. That's why I tell people, Google is free. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Until it's not, right.
Well, I mean, but I like that point that, the fact that, sure, you have like this breach of privacy, but it also is there for convenience, right? It's there to help you find the things that are either opportune for you or that you show interest in, that you like, and it makes it easier to get to. So I do like that component of social and all these apps and data and everything that's going on nowadays. But you still got to be cautious because there's some crazy stuff coming down the pipeline, but we won't get into that.
That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. So let's jump back into these content libraries. So
yeah.
Obviously, content consists of a variety of things like photos, videos, custom graphics,
Right.
GIFs. There's all kinds of different things that can appear as media or and be used.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you go about creating the right mix? Because I know everything's nowadays more video focused, right? But are you still sprinkling in some of those static posts or the carousels and everything else as well? Or what's your approach to all of that?
You have to have some of those static, copyright free, just kind of, I call them almost like sound bites, video bites, where you just using imagery to create. If not, I would have to follow every single client around all day long, every day to,
Sure.
have unique video constantly streaming for them. And I have some clients that are very good and comfortable in front of their iPhones or,
Right.
their Androids and getting content and dropping it to me. And I have others that it's like painful. So, you have to understand the limitations of your client
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to get creative and think outside the box. So, am I going to take one video and cut it 16 different ways? Yes, because again, I'm feeding the beast that is Instagram and TikTok, and I've got to have those sound bites. So, whether I'm taking the audio or the video, I have to have something to pull from.
Right.
And the more often I put their faces in front of their clients and their audience, the better ratings they get. And once they see that, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, I need to do that." But then you have to get out of your own way sometimes, and they get in and they overthink, and it's like, no, take the perfectionism is what gets in their way.
Yeah, it's. I think I agree with you. I think that there's a level of paralysis that occurs from trying to make everything perfect. Because I think if I look a little bit off, nobody's gonna buy. And we're all human at the end of the day. In fact, it's those little quirks oftentimes that make you seem more approachable than being perfect and rigid and like
It's your imperfections that endear you, right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Because everybody's like, "Oh, well, I thought it had to be perfect." And that's what keeps a lot of people from doing any kind of self-branding.
Yeah.
I was the same way. I started doing TikToks because my clients wanted TikToks, and I'm of the mindset I'm going to do it for myself first, and I'm going to make the mistakes on me, and I'm going to learn the platform so that because I'm not going to charge you if I can't do it well for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're better off doing it on your own, then why would you pay me to do it? So I started doing TikToks like 2 years ago. And at first I was like, why would anybody want to listen to me? But when I got the feedback from that, somebody was like, "Oh, I played this for my son. Could you do more of these I was like, really? Okay. So I did more little TikToks, talking about getting up and getting ready for their day and getting in a positive mindset. And then I started a weight loss journey, and I started doing TikToks for that. And I got all of this following and support of people going, "Keep going, you're doing great." And I was like, okay. And even my friends were like, "I'm so proud of you. You're putting yourself out there." And I'm like, okay. Because I was the person who wanted to stay behind the screen. Don't look at the woman behind the curtain. I was like the
Right.
Wizard of Oz. I was just going to create everybody else's brand, but I wasn't going to create my own. And then I realized the power in those messages. Everybody wants to hear a story. We're all voyeuristic. I don't care who you are. You want to look in the window of the nice house. You want to see the furniture. You want to see what they're using. You want to see how they're dressing, because that's the way society has become. That's why reality TV is so much more popular than a sitcom, because everybody wants to look through the windows of the houses that they can't get into.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah. So let me take you like another step back, because okay, what you're talking about is very like personal branding oriented right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that's not the case for every type of marketing that has to be done for every type of industry and different clientele. So this approach that we've been discussing, what would you like? Which industries or what client types would you recommend this personal branding side of things to be their forefront in their marketing versus, let's say let's say you're selling products versus selling a service that is you're the one doing it, for example, right?
Right. Okay. So for personal branding, I would say lawyers, restaurateurs, anybody who is creating a specific product, right?
Hmm.
So whether it's my country music star or it's my attorney who helps restaurants to get through the process of opening a restaurant, getting a liquor license, any of that. You have to build trust immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are the people where I would say the personality video fits,
Okay.
right? They want to get to know the person, the brand, and you are the brand. It's a personal brand. Those industries that are more about, not even that they're a big ticket item, but it's more like my remodelers, my roofers, they also have to build trust, but people want to see their expertise, right? So before you start letting somebody rip out your kitchen, you want to see what the end work looks like in somebody else's project.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that video library comes into play. It's about, do they work clean? Are they going to respect my house? Is this somebody that's trustworthy? And I want to see testimonials from the people who have worked with them about their process.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the personal brand person where it's like the lawyer, the restaurateur, where they're handling your stuff personally. That's why you're creating that personal brand video and that library of personal brand videos. And then there's the process and the creation or the making of the widget. They want to see how it's done so that they feel more comfortable, or maybe it's answering the question of how did that get done? Why should I use that product? That's where the importance of that type of video library
Okay.
comes into play.
So to summarize that, so if you are the product or the service, and it's not really a fully visual or tangible service, like attorneys and sometimes even consultants and those types of
Right.
services. Those,
Coaches,
yep,
business consultants,
Hmm.
any of those people, you are the
yep.
product.
So
So it's
that's
about
them.
creating your videos. Right.
So that you should focus on personal branding. Now, if you're like
Mhm.
you were saying, a home renovation specialist, you have something tangible, something that's got an end result that's visual, right? Then
Mhm.
you should be working. I like to call it social proof, right? That's where you want testimonials, you want the before and afters, you want case studies, whatever it is for those situations. For example, you're a consultant, then you do a brand, but let's say you're building websites, right? You want to showcase the actual befores, the afters,
Right.
talking about what was built, what was not, the ease of use, those types of things. Okay. So hopefully that kind of gives the audience a little bit of better understanding. Personal branding versus social proofing type of content. And then what other types of content would you describe for other types of business? Because there are some, like let's say products, right? Like an end product. I feel like that type of marketing and the videos and the content around it, I feel would be a little bit different than that personal branding and that social proofing, right? Um, would you consider that more like demonstrative content?
Right. So then you have and you see this mostly with influencers,
Hmm.
right? And influencer marketing, where they're buying the product or they're getting the product from the company. And the ones that actually have the most validity are the ones that are not getting the sponsor or the affiliate marketing fee, but the ones who actually go, okay, I use this face mask and it actually worked, or I use this hair iron and it actually worked. It did a great job on my hair. And you're showing the before and afters, or you're having them follow you along.
Hmm.
So and this is one of the reasons influencer marketing, I think, I know, and it has even been said in the trades, is the way marketing is going to go and is going, right? Influencer marketing is booming right now
Yep.
because people find I'm going to trust that stay at home mom more because she's testing things and she's not getting paid for it, until you have to put that sponsor at the bottom. And then, but you build your audience based on your trustworthiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more they feel they're getting the truth from you on the product, the more likely they're going to then buy that product for you. It's when you start shilling for companies that the product isn't good, but you're getting the check, so you're going to push that product. That's when you have to start being careful. But at right now, the influencer marketer is probably the hottest marketing item you can have.
So, do you use influencers in some of your campaigns as well, or
I like to see my clients actually become the
okay,
influencer to
okay,
talk about the product, but also to get their clients to come on and say, yes, I use this. And I love love getting testimonial videos because it works just like the influencer marketing.
well, yeah, it's I would say it's influencer marketing is great because you get their reach, but I would agree there's something about that testimonial video. It's more righteous and kind of like real because like, hey, I've actually experienced this. I'm not an influencer. I'm just letting other people know my experience so they could trust and they would want to work here with these people as well,
Right.
for example. But I feel like there is a little bit of a difference. I feel like an influencer turned testimonial is a little bit more powerful just because they got that
Yes.
reach, though. But getting that person to do that, it's kind of hard to do it without unless you do outreach and ask them to do something. And sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, okay, where's my paycheck?" So that's the issue with
Yeah.
dealing with like an influencer.
But
Um,
here's the way I counter that. It's they're gonna so I do what I try to get them to understand is we're going if especially if it's one company using another company's service,
mhm,
right? We're gonna now promote you. You're the client, but we're gonna promote you for using our product.
yeah,
And we're gonna give a shout out to you and your services. And you're gonna get the benefit of our network, but we're also gonna get the benefit of your network.
mhm,
So that cross promotion is really like I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of thing. And I find that also works really well.
yeah,
And it also builds a nice community.
So yeah, I mean, before video, as you know, we used to call that backlinking or cross
Right.
promotional website
Backlink.
cross promotion. So now we're just moving that over into the digital video realm where
Mm-hmm.
you're sharing across platforms. Exactly.
yeah.
So let me ask you this. So with all your experience, 9 years, I mean, that's fantastic. Again, today, congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
anniversary. Um, have you found obviously technology is changing, technology is certainly getting a lot more, shall we say, cost effective for everybody to go out and utilize very high end equipment. But how big is your team? How do you utilize your team? Do you have somebody constantly out in the field, or do you set your schedules like, okay, last second week of every month I'm going to reach out to each one, I'm going to set up a schedule, we're going to be doing our recordings? How do you kind of mix that into your daily flow of everything that social media, like you said, it's a beast, so you constantly, sounds like you got so many things happening simultaneously. So tell us about how you manage your team and how you manage your day.
So yeah, I've got a team of 4. And it's a constant juggle. The girls that work for me, one's a stay-at-home mom, and that was something that was really important to me, is that caretakers have an opportunity to work and get a paycheck and still be able to take care, because that's the whole reason Pace got started, right? Because I needed to take care of my daughter. So I have a mom who has a number of foster children who are special needs. God bless her. And
Wow.
she can literally work from bed with a child in her arms and and do social media postings, because for me, we use a scheduling system, and I'm like, I don't care what hour of the day you do this, so long as it's there by 8 o'clock in the morning when I sit down at my desk and I can look at my accounts and I see everybody's scheduled out for the day. If it works for you at 2 a.m., it works for you at 2 a.m. If it works for you because the baby's sleeping at noon and you can knock out 6 clients for me for the week, awesome. I also have a college student who started with me as an intern. She just got her master's in social work. She still works for me. So this is her side hustle, right? And she gets to, still handle 6 accounts for me, and whatever time it works for her, but it works for her, right? And then I have my photographer, my videographer, and he also does social media posting for me, but he's got a more intimate side of the client because he's the one going out with me doing the videos and the testimonies and taking the pictures as well. So he gets to sit down and talk. And it just works because I allow people to work when it works best for them. So long as it's there in the morning when I sit down at my desk. I don't care what hour of the day you do it, just so long as it's there and the week is covered. So that frees me up, though. I look at my list of my own clients that I'm posting for, and I'm like, that's getting a little long. I'm going to have to hire somebody else to take over some of these accounts. But I then go out and meet with the client and say, okay, we've got to schedule your videos. We've got to schedule, when I'm working on political campaigns, it's when's your next event? What are we going to talk about? Who are the hands we're shaking? And we need pictures of those people. Or am I getting a testimonial? Like next Saturday, we have a kitchen remodel company that is doing a dinner party. So Al and I will go and we're going to take pictures of the dinner party. So I'm going to be dressing the food and doing all of that. And he's going to be taking the pictures. But the whole idea is to highlight the kitchen that was just remodeled, but we're cross promoting the chef that's doing so all of those things are, that's like just one picture of my week. At any given time, it could be anything, that I'm from taking pictures of enclosed patios to going to a restaurant that just got opened and my restaurant client, lawyer client, helped. But my week starts with everything is written down. So I plan out my week and I like, okay, we have the dinner party, we have this shoot, we have that shoot, and we're going to get all of this covered. But we're also doing a newsletter. We have now a marketing campaign. One client said, I want to do a newsletter marketing campaign. Okay. And so I've got to organize that and come up with a name and come up with a layout and do all of that. So yes, there are days when I'm like, is it Friday? Because I'm exhausted.
So it sounds like you're incredibly busy, and I see you held up your schedule. Everybody see pen and paper still does work, even though a lot of us go digital. But now, do you find you're more comfortable pen and paper? This is a personal question. Do you find you're more comfortable pen and paper, or do you go to use a CRM? Would you recommend people using the CRMs?
Absolutely recommend people using CRMs, and I'm not opposed to them. This literally is just so that I can, because I will start. I have 11 clients that I'm managing personally, right? And at any given moment, I'll get an email, somebody will drop me something, so this is literally so I can make a notation of where I stopped on that account and make sure I don't miss a day. This is my backup. I have my scheduler. Yes, I can go in there and look and pull up the account and be like, yes, that's scheduled for that day and it's going out. But this is quicker for me to go, okay, I was on Oberman. Yeah. All right. I have to get back to that section of my week and make sure I finish getting his posts out. Sometimes, like I just came back from vacation, right? And I had to, my partner, I had copious notes for him to understand because so much of it is in here. And
Right.
he's like, how am I going to know what? I was like, oh, because I've written out this day, this one got a testimonial, this day, this got this article, this. So you can also see the link and you won't repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that for every single one of my clients. And it's for me as well, so that I remember where I was. Because it could be my daughter came in and said, I need a ride here. Or the dog came in and said I have to go play with him because he's demanding. Or I got a delivery, or a client called, or an email happened and I had to stop what I was doing and go handle that. So yes, anybody else who's not as insane as I am should actually use a CRM on a regular basis. How I keep it all in my head, I don't know, but that's probably why I wake up at 2:00 in the morning going, shit, did I do that? Did I get this done?
Did I leave the gas on?
Yeah, it's like, okay, yes, I did that. All right, okay. Whew, I can go to sleep now.
That's funny. All right. Well, so we've talked about quite a bit here today. So let's give something now to the audience that's practical, maybe something that they can on their own be able to do, right? So we've been kind of talking on that media library or the content library, right? So let's discuss a couple of things. Number one, on average, what should a client anticipate or expect for volumes of content that they should plan? Let's say if they're going to do it themselves. Some people are like, oh, I should do 2 times a week. I should do 5 times a week. Depending on like the volume, frequency, and all of that, right? What do you normally recommend? So, like, if someone needs to plan content for the whole month, how many pieces of content should they have, and how frequently should they be posting?
Okay. The most important thing about content is being consistent. So if all they can do is once a week, then stick to once a week.
Okay.
Stick to the same day, same time, same back channel. We want to make sure it's consistent because you'll train people to look for your content at a specific time and day.
Mm-hmm.
If that's all you can do, if the minimum is one day,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to turn your phone around and talk to the camera. They want to hear from you.
Okay.
And if that's all you can do, if you're sitting in your car on your way to a client, give us 5 seconds of going, I'm going to see this client. This is what we're going to talk about. And I hope to close the deal. If you could come back the following week and follow that up and go, we closed the deal, we're getting started on the project, that gives them just a little bit of a view and an insight into you and your consistency. It also starts to build that online trust that everybody's looking for.
Okay.
That connection.
Okay. So the frequency, it just depends on your business. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, let's talk about the type of content that they should focus on, right? Because we know that that's a variation, right? Like if you can't do videos, okay, then do something else. But what do you recommend is optimal nowadays for their content calendar?
So, product specific, right? There was a lot in the beginning you could fill with fluff. You could do, it's love your sibling week, and you could use that as a post to. I started my business with my brother. We couldn't stand each other, but we started a business anyway. And I love the schlummock that he is anyhow. And you put him a picture of you and your brother. That filled a lot of social media posts, right? You used to buy the calendars and, oh, we'll create content for you, or we'll give you inspiration, 30 days of inspiration. And that, people sold that muck. And that was basically it. It was like, oh, it's Black Cat Day, and whatever,
Yeah.
caca that they were putting up. But really and truly, if you're going to take the time to create any content, make it specific and show the value of your product, whether it's the value of the service, whether it's you do testimonial Tuesdays or thoughtful Thursdays if you need a hashtag, to follow. Because a lot of people, they like the structure of, oh, we're going to have, Wisdom Wednesdays, thoughtful Thursdays, and Friday feelings. And my team does that. We have clients that love that, and that they like the consistency of that. Or it could just be specific to what you do, what you produce, and why that product should be utilized.
Okay. And then my final one here that I've got for you here is audience building, because I don't know on social if you could really truly say if you build it, they come, because I don't believe that's true. So what are some simple or easy things that, let's say someone's DIYing their own social, what can they be doing to actually build up their social following to get to a point where like their content actually matters more and more and more? Because nobody's looking at your super nice video. It doesn't matter how much you produce. You spend $1 million to produce this video. If no one's looking at it, then it doesn't have any value, right? So how would you, let's say on your side, how do you build the audience for a new social profile?
Okay. So the easiest way to build a community online is to join groups, joining groups on Facebook, joining groups on LinkedIn that allow you to discuss your expertise, right? Within your field. And some of that is, you're preaching to the choir. But sometimes if you get into the right group, like I'm in a group, Jewish Moms of Atlanta, which allows me to put my clients, especially my home service clients, in front of people that I know are looking for their services. So the fact that I sit on Facebook all day long, I see the notifications come in, whether it's, what is it? It's services I need or referrals I need, or Jewish Moms of Atlanta, Jewish Moms of Georgia, whatever it is. And they go, I need a remodeler. I'm on it, right? I've got my client in there. I'm putting up their information. I need a plumber. I've got somebody. I need an electrician. I'm putting them in there. And I know that if I put them in there within the first or second post of the question going up, they're more likely to get called.
Okay.
And then I will call the client and go, let me know if Sally Goodman, because she was looking for a plumber and I just put you in front of her. Let me know if that works.
Or somebody else.
So sometimes
right. I'll see those posts and I'm like, oh, who do they recommend? Oh, okay, I'm going to call them too.
Right. And so by doing that, a lot of times you'll get people in your community, in your own personal communities going, you've got a good network. Who do you know that can do X, Y, and Z? Mm-hmm. Or I'm looking for this service. Now, for, my guy with the A-frame thing and he's moving HVACs, Jewish Moms is not going to help him because they're not going to be like, my husband's looking to move an HVAC on our roof. No, that's not the call I'm going to get. But on LinkedIn, if I'm in the right groups, I can, like for complex managers or property management groups or whatever, then I have an opportunity to say, hey, I got this client that does XYZ. Do you know anybody who needs this service? So groups are the easiest and fastest way to build those online communities. But it's not just putting your name in the hat. You also have to participate in the group. And that's a lot of people don't seem to understand is it is time. You have to put the time in order to get some benefit out of social media. You have to hang out in social media in order to get the benefit of social media.
That's true. Now, what is your opinion on buying followers using ad campaigns?
Well, ad campaigns, yes. But there's a difference because you can buy followers, and that's a whole lot of...
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me clarify. Using...
There's a whole lot of bot bullshit there, so we don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about buying the bot followers. I'm talking about utilizing, let's say, Facebook or Instagram's promotional tools to do what I like to call follower campaigns, right? Yeah. Is that something that you recommend to do? And yes. Is that something that the average person can put together for their own brand?
Okay, but what they have to understand when they're doing that is they need to pick their audience carefully. Right? They need to have an understanding before they put their money, because a lot of times they go, well, I did an ad and I put money behind it and it didn't get, well, what was your audience? And they'll go, what do you mean? Did you pick an audience? I'm supposed to pick an audience? Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to pick an audience.
That's why it asks you all those questions when you create your profile. That people just go next, you know. Yeah. Or skip don't skip those things. Those are very important little tidbits of information of data that the system uses.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't understand." I'm like, "Yeah," and so I'll say, "Well, why don't you let me pick your audience?" And they're like, "Oh, you'll do that?" I'm like, "Yeah." Not only will I do that, like for when I'm trying to close the deal with a client, I said, "I'll pick your audience for free." And then if that ad gets traction, you're going to sign with me. And they're like, oh, okay. But what they don't understand is by letting me in and giving me admin access so that I can pick that, I've now got their audience, right? And so in order to utilize that audience, they got to utilize me.
Mm-hmm. So I know we've spoken a lot about different channels of social media, but the one we haven't touched on, just want to get your opinion for the viewers on, is X.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me about X.
You see a lot of
Formerly
advertising.
Twitter.
I said formerly Twitter. I did say that. It's. I know it's a lot of people call it the Wild West, but I've seen a lot more advertising going. People talking about advertising on Twitter. I get the head shake now.
And I'll tell you why. Because it is so random, right? You really cannot trust the information you're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually try to steer people away from utilizing X because it is just a free for all of caca. I mean, it is the worst platform
We'll
out
put
there.
we'll put the appropriate emoji in for that as in the post.
Elon Musk, if you're ever listening, that is, yeah. Listen, I'm sorry. That's it.
Hey, no, maybe we should send this to him as a little bit of feedback. He needs to clean up the algorithms. You hear a lot of people talking about the algorithms on that platform.
It is just.
I don't touch it.
It is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
It is an absolute nightmare, and I have clients that are like, well, we should be on X, and I'm like, no. I used to utilize Twitter before just for driving traffic to
Right.
to get people to click on a website because it was good for that. But it is just such a free for all. And there's so much misinformation on there that I don't even want my clients associated with it.
Right. So let's just clarify that for people so that people understand what's going on Twitter from the marketeer standpoint. From the user endpoint, we all like Twitter. We all like throwing our opinions out there. Hey, we've all got an opinion on a subject. But
just
from
like
the
another body part, but I'm going to behave myself for y'all, so you don't have to use any more emojis.
But from the marketing standpoint, from those of us who work behind the veil, the statistics and the analytics, when you're on there, how do you explain to your client, look, I know what happens on Twitter, and this is why I recommend we don't utilize that platform, because the analytics tells us this, and we can't trust that. So maybe you can delve a little bit into that so that people understand why they should be hesitant of using a platform like that.
One of the reasons you are putting content out there is to show or to help the algorithms find you, right? And Google has so many parameters now that you have to have valid information, and it has to be, confirmable, and it has to have so many clicks, and people have to find it useful in order for it to help you rank higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Twitter has no standards. X has no standards. And so it's like, I want you to be seen, and I want my clients to be seen as a valid company. And I don't feel like having a presence on X. Now, that doesn't say that I took Pace Setting Media down off of, I just left it. And it gets posted there automatically because I have it scheduled. But I'm not getting anything from X. It's not like I'm getting this, stampede of audience coming in from there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You have to understand where your client is and how you're reaching them, and whether that is even a valid platform to continue to use or not. Each individual has to decide. But for me, I tell my clients, I don't feel like it's going to give you the validity online that you need, that you would get, say, from LinkedIn.
I mean, the way that I always viewed Twitter or X in the past, at least, I don't know now, I've kind of steered away from it since it rebranded, but in the past, there were certain industries that it made sense to use it, right? Like a lot of financial, crypto industries, heavy on X. But there were a lot of these places or these companies or anybody that was on there, it was either personalities or it was a company that had a huge following of some sort. They would use it as a way to just offer updates.
Right.
Right? Because it was the way that I remember it, it was unlike Facebook, where the algorithm really scrubs off a lot of your posting to your followers. X at least let your followers see your things when it came out. That was the one value. I think a valuable thing back in the day with Twitter was like you had like maybe you're following some account that talks about Dogecoin or whatever for the crypto world, right? And they made an update. You saw that update. You could see that that graph or whatever was going on for the day, that market update for that day. But you don't get that on Facebook, right? You don't get that on Instagram because of the algorithm changes. But I feel like it's not. I don't know how well it thrived on the advertising side of things for marketing. Like I looked at it as like just a good follower. That's it, followers.
Right, but it's constantly moving.
It's
right.
Quick.
It's like every 20 minutes you've got to have
High
something.
Pace.
And I don't feel like that lends itself to advertising as well as Facebook. I know I've got between 4 and 6 hours that it's going to be seen. Twitter, if it's one and done, it's like you've got to keep it moving.
I agree with you on that. The one thing I did think was interesting though on Twitter versus like Facebook and everywhere else. Sure, on Facebook you can share something, whatever else. But what I liked on Twitter back in the day was you can retweet. And then that was a statistic that they actually measured. How many retweets did this get? And that just showed, that would be something that showed like, oh, this is popular. Oh, this is valid. Or this is real. Like, or this is interesting. Like, oh, this is juicy. This is gossipy, or whatever you wanted to look at Twitter for. Because there's so many different reasons to be on Twitter. But, at the end of the day, I've never found that being super conductive to businesses, right? Like to like an everyday mom and pop shop. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be a plumber on Twitter and getting business from it.
Right. Now the thing was, if you were getting traction on Twitter, it was usually because you were getting canceled or they were highlighting something that you said or did and had nothing to do with your business. Or if it did, you were a bakery and you were in trouble. But it was the only time you got traction on Twitter as a business, a small business, is because you said something stupid.
Yeah, you got in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, you could look at it and say, if YouTube is the gold standard for longevity, things have been up there and people put content up there that just, keeps, the popular it gets, it has a long traction, long life. Twitter, it's instantaneous. It's the lifespan of your tweet is very short lived. I mean, even, I know and for those who don't know, we're in July 4th, 2024, just for a timestamp. If anybody sees this later on, we're going into an election year. And, just reading an article about Twitter and politics. And they're all reaching out and realizing that is not even the greatest place for them to be advertising. And they're spending millions on advertising on Twitter. And they're realizing that it doesn't constitute, even though people are seeing it, the political ads, it doesn't constitute or justify it in the end that people are going to click, make a donation, follow that political, person. So Twitter is very, as you said, it's the Wild West. It's very instantaneous what's happening over there.
For politics, they have a better chance on TikTok to get their message out there.
Well, and then you've got other things.
I have a few candidates that are doing fantastically on TikTok.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm sorry, and there's other platforms now that, like, I think there's Telegram that replaces Twitter, or at least I know Telegram.
Threads.
Yeah, Threads. But I wouldn't go that far. But I know I've heard Telegram is huge in the financial world, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So
the news and financial, very good.
So it's like
Telegram is good.
A lot of those people that were in the finance sector and they used to be living on Twitter. Now they're in Telegram, right? So it's like you see a variety of different things occurring now. I
mean,
that brings you back to validity, though.
That's it. I think the validity of your platform.
Right, and the problem with X is that nothing is really being confirmed as truth or fake,
Yeah.
right? Anything's getting thrown up there. And I get it, freedom of speech, that whole thing. But we need to validate what's being said.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to find platforms that is going to give validity to what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Whether you're a business or a politician or whatever, you need to be on platforms that are perceived as valid and are going to confirm or not allow this to be chaotic and chaos. And that's what I feel whenever I open X, I'm like, whoa. Now I know why it's an X, because it's like,
no.
It's
I
not.
have no idea whether this has any
It's
validity.
not X marks the spot. I'm sorry. It is X means do not pass.
Out.
Do not go. Do not
Exactly.
stay away.
Exactly.
So talking about, again, validity and validating the product. Let's keep politics aside, or because that's a very unique thing on
Yeah.
how to go about it. It's got its own way of marketing and targeting audiences, and its own customized algorithms also. But from a marketing standpoint, if predominantly, which are the channels that you advise people to primarily take a look at when you're building those personas for them? You say, okay, you're a baker, a lawyer, a mechanic, where do you normally say, okay, this is where we're going to start, at least, and we're going to start looking, and maybe you can speak a little bit about that so people have an understanding where they should be looking, and where we just spoke about where not to go looking.
Funny enough, TikTok and Instagram, right? First of all, the formats are not that dissimilar, so you're not having to recreate content to fit a format, right? Whereas YouTube is a long video. It has its reels, it has its shorts,
Yeah.
but it's a long purpose video.
Right, long
So
format.
you're teaching on YouTube, you're
Discussing,
educating steps, educating. TikTok and Instagram allows you to give snippets, especially like for a baker. If you do great photography, or you're really good with your camera on your phone and you're good at setting up that video shot, then it allows you to give them that voyeuristic feeling of watching from the inside, seeing how the bread is made, seeing how the cookie is baked, seeing how the house is cleaned. It's working very well for those industries. Mechanics utilizing, the clinking of the car to the hum of the engine. You have different perspectives that you can give, and it allows you those short little bursts of information, and you can do it on the fly, and it allows you to build an audience quickly.
Well, and let's be honest. TikTok and Instagram are what I would always like to call the audience growing platforms, because you get far more reach to find new people than you do on places like Facebook or on LinkedIn, because those algorithms are not optimized to show to new people all the time. They're more like, hey, these are the people that I'm constantly interacting with, that it's showing more content to. Versus like, you got Instagram's got I forget, stories, right?
They have reels.
The reels and stories, right? So depending on which one you do, you can actually get people that have never even engaged with you see your video.
Right.
And same thing on TikTok. TikTok is just like constantly pushing out to random people to see who hits your marker, and then boom, you get followers. You can literally get new followers on a daily basis as long as you're just putting out content.
Right, and then we come back to consistency, right? If you're looking to build an audience, consistency is king. The more you post, the more likely you are to hit somebody at the right moment, at the right time, and they're going to follow you.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Sometimes I look at the people that I'm following on TikTok and going, why am I following this person? And then I go back and find the video that I actually liked. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I see that. Yeah, all right, I'll stay following.
Yeah. No, I that's the one thing I learned quickly. I really like TikTok, but I realized I need to pace myself on TikTok, because you get trapped by TikTok.
You go down that rabbit hole.
The doom scrolling.
And the next thing you know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and you.
1 o'clock. We've all been there at 1:30. Like, I got to get to bed, and you're watching another 20 seconds, another 30 seconds. what's that next one? It's amazing how they've already tweaked the algorithm, and they know
Yeah.
the makers of these softwares that, how the engagement works and the psychology behind it.
Mhm.
So, the psychology of the viewer, the marketeer, content,
And
and
that's
your
why they call
profile.
us users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they call us users.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No, but this has all been very, very, very thought provoking conversations, and so we really thank you here. Wendy, just for the audience, could you tell them how they can get in contact with you? Maybe your website, your phone number. Like if they wanted to reach out to you, if they want to follow you on social media, could you go ahead and drop your information right now? On the call real quick, and
Sure.
let them all know how to interact with you.
So if they're looking to sign with Pace Setting Media, or they just want to have a conversation with me, it's Wendy at pacesettingmedia.com. Check out the website, pacesettingmedia.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, and they can find me on TikTok if they like, at Wendy Pace. I'm everywhere. My social footprint is huge. They just have to put my name into Google. They'll find me. It's
Okay,
not a problem.
perfect. All right. Well, so if anybody needs any assistance with social media, be sure to reach out to Wendy. And so again, thank you, Wendy, for indulging us today and talking to us about your world, your day-to-day world. And
Thanks.
hopefully our
Thank you so much.
your listeners get some value out of everything we talked about today. So
I hope so. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was
All
a
right.
pleasure speaking with you and learning about your day and how you approach and the uniqueness about your company.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.